Oh, look, in this video, they said a grandma realized she been caught after a killing spree. I look, the title itself threw me off. I'm like, what? A grandma was on a killing spree? Yeah, I know, right? That's what I said.
In 2018, two women meet for drinks at a bar in Fort Myers, Florida. One invites the other to her hotel room, completely unaware that she's in the presence of a killer.
Or when you're traveling up to the airport and stuff, they're all this morning. Can I see this language?
This encounter sets off a chilling chain of events, linking their meeting to a gruesome crime 1,000 miles away. Now, investigators across state lines must work together in a race against time to put an end to the ruthless crime spree before the killer strikes again.
You're gonna find a body there. Somebody better look.
The following report is based on police records, and most of the footage has never been seen before until now. On April 9, 2018, dispatchers in Lee County, Florida receive a call from a motel manager with reports of a chilling discovery.
911, Mother's Emergency?
Yes, this is at Marina Village, Snug Harbor down in Fort Myers Beach, and there's a dead body in one of the units.
Her body's covered in towels and there's blood in there.
The manager explained that several units were experiencing a plumbing issue, and every other unit had been checked except for room 404.
When I walked in there, I said, front desk, and no one answered, and the master bedroom was closed, and all the stuff was there, so I didn't want to interrupt thinking there was nothing there, but my boss said, no, go in and make sure, because it could be in that particular bedroom. So I went back up, and I opened up the master bedroom, and the door to the bathroom was closed with towels on the outside of it. So when I went to open up the door, something was blocking it, and I got scared.
Too afraid to investigate alone, the manager asked residents in the neighboring rooms to peek inside. Brave volunteers came forward to help, unaware of the nightmare waiting for them on the other side of the door.
There was a towel against the door. The door was partially open. We tried to push on it, and we were hitting something. So I looked around the door, and she's laying on the floor with towels over her, and she was bleeding. You could see blood under her towel. The towel looked to be under her head. That's all I could see.
Officers quickly arrived to find a woman lying on the bathroom floor with what appeared to be 2 gunshot wounds. A towel had been draped over her body, and the air conditioning was lowered to a frigid temperature of 61 degrees. The guest bedroom showed signs of use, and multiple wine bottles along with dishes piled in the sink indicated another guest may have been staying there. Whoever it may have been was nowhere to be found. Police discovered that room 404 was rented by 59-year-old Pamela Hutchinson, who was captured on surveillance checking into the Marina Village condominium 6 days ago on April 3rd.
Barely made it by the bell. Pamela Hutchinson. How are you today? Good. Good. Right, the traffic was... Did your driver's license and a credit card?
Pamela reaches into a small silver purse, which was later discovered in her motel room. However, her credit cards and identification were missing. More importantly, she checks into the motel alone, raising questions about who was in the room with her. Searching for answers, investigators continue reviewing the tapes, unaware of the unnerving mystery that's about to unfold. At 3:44 p.m., Pamela pulls into the parking lot of Marina Village in a white Acura with Florida license plates. Shortly after checking in, Pamela exits the elevator and heads to room 404 by herself. However, the following day, she's no longer alone. As she approaches the elevator at 8:13 p.m. on April 4th, she's now accompanied by another woman who bears a striking resemblance to Pamela. They appear about the same age, height, and build.
Hey, what did you do? Stay out all night, Pam, and then sleep all day because you don't have any fun? Yes. And I don't have to sleep all day.
They're seen again the following day at 12:45 a.m. on April 5th, entering the elevator and once again heading toward the room.
So, no, I like that. It's got 2 TVs in there. I don't know what's supposed to be very good. Or when you're traveling up to the airport and stuff, they're all this morning. Can I see this language?
Further investigation revealed that Pamela was traveling to Fort Myers Beach for a funeral to be with her friend, who was scattering the ashes of her late husband. The friend last saw Pamela at lunch on Wednesday, April 4th, and later received a text saying she'd extended her stay to April 5th. However, when she sent a text to Pamela at 10 p.m. on Thursday, she received no response. Surveillance footage shows the unknown woman meeting with Pamela at a restaurant on April 5th at 5:14 p.m. They share a high five, engage in lively conversation, and have a few drinks at the bar. Over 2 hours later, Pamela pays for her meal with a credit card, while the other woman pays in cash. They leave the restaurant at 7:43 p.m. and are seen exiting the elevator and heading toward Pamela's room together. Pamela would never be seen alive again. The answers to what happened to Pamela are with the other woman, but she is now missing. As investigators review more footage, they note that on April 5th at 8:30 p.m., just 45 minutes after leaving the restaurant together, the unknown woman emerges from the room alone. Officers note that she appears distraught, upset, and possibly crying. As they continue observing the footage, the woman's next actions leave investigators deeply suspicious of her involvement. On the morning of April 6th at 6 a.m., the suspect heads to the elevator carrying the same purple luggage bag that Pamela had been seen with earlier. 2 hours later at 8:30 a.m., a woman claiming to be Pamela extends her stay for 3 additional days. She provides a credit card over the phone, but oddly, the card doesn't match the one used for the reservation. Minutes later, the suspect begins making several trips to and from the parking lot. Pamela's car is seen backing into a space in front of a white Cadillac Escalade. The suspect then begins to transfer items from the Escalade to the Acura. The Escalade leaves the parking lot at 12:42 p.m., but the suspect returns on foot nearly an hour later at 1:32 p.m., where she stays for several hours. Finally, on April 6th at 1:51 p.m., she heads for the parking lot and is seen driving away in Pamela's white Acura, leaving her body to be discovered 3 days later. The suspect has vanished without a trace, and as there's no record of her staying at the motel, her identity remains a mystery. Investigators are left with many haunting questions.
And she looked like
who is this woman,
a
and what
common
role
lady.
could she have played in Pamela's death? The answers may lie over 1,000 miles away,
Like she
where an
just
unfolding
can play so many
investigation
different
reveals
people.
shocking connections between the cases, far more twisted than anyone could have imagined. 2 weeks earlier, on March 23, 2018, a call is placed to the Dodge County Sheriff's Office in Blooming Prairie, Minnesota, where uneasy concerns soon lead to an alarming discovery.
Could I speak with a detective possibly? My name's Greg Oswald. We have right up to the point of missing person here. My business partner, and there seems to be something seriously wrong.
Okay, how so?
Well, I haven't been able to talk to him for 16 days, and neither of any of the employees. He's never done this. Dave's never done this. In the 20 years I know him, he's very involved in our business, hands-on.
Okay, and what is his name?
David Reese.
Greg further explains that the Prairie Waxworms farm is just 100 feet away from David's home, where he and his wife Lois reside. Thomas, the farm's manager, explained their concerns began 10 days prior on March 12th.
Lois come down to the shed and told me that David was sick and he would not be down today, and she also wanted me to take care of the payroll because we get paid every bi-weekly. David having some health issues in the past, I did not think anything of that.
Soon, David's co-workers became suspicious after unsettling differences emerged in their usual communication.
The texts we were getting from his phone were not his texts. It just wasn't Dave's style. Dave didn't abbreviate, didn't punctuate, didn't. You could tell it wasn't him.
Thomas, Greg, and other employees claimed David's text messages seemed to change around the same day Lois began telling others he was sick.
He does talk text. That's what he's always done, you know? And the ones I was getting was like all exclamation marks and commas and dots and thanks abbreviated with an X instead of spelling it out and stuff, you know?
Okay.
Yes.
And he doesn't normally do that?
No, he just text and it spells out the full words.
Despite their concerns, on Monday, March 19th, 8 days after he was first reported to be sick, Lois assured Thomas that David still had plans to attend a fishing tournament set to take place the following Friday.
March 23rd, I watched the live weigh-in of the Cabela's Masters Walleye Circuit that David was supposed to be at, according to Lois. When they announced David's name, I did not see him, and I became very concerned.
He then called Greg, David's business partner, who contacted local police to perform a welfare check on David. Deputy Hoffman from Dodge County Sheriff's Office arrived at the house on March 23rd at 6:49 p.m., but no one answered the door. Through the window, he noticed the television and gas fireplace were on. With nothing seeming out of the ordinary, the deputy left, unaware of the horrifying secret hidden inside the house.
We were so frustrated sitting there talking to these people. Mental health people are going to go out and check, and that guy says, "You're going to find a body there. Somebody better look."
Determined, Greg once again calls Bloomington Prairie Police. This time, officers Peterson and Peach returned to the house. One officer boosted the other, lifting him just high enough to peek through the bathroom window. Lying on the bathroom floor was the body of 54-year-old David Reese. Though investigators in Minnesota would have no way of knowing it, the chilling discovery of David's body would soon reveal haunting parallels to Pamela's death in Florida. David was discovered in an advanced state of decomposition, with a green-colored blanket laying over his body, in a similar manner to the towels draped over Pamela. He had multiple gunshot wounds to his torso. The window was left open, bringing the temperature in the room to a chilling low of around 30 degrees. The eerie similarities raise harrowing questions. Is this simply a coincidence, or the beginning of a brutal killing spree? With many questions for David's wife, Lois, Minnesota investigators begin looking for her, but she's nowhere to be found. In an effort to trace her movements, they review local business surveillance, starting from the last time the couple was seen together. On March 11th, David and Lois both enter their local general store. David walks out at 9:01 a.m. and would never be seen on surveillance footage again. The following day, Lois explains to Thomas that David has fallen ill and would begin using David's phone to text his co-workers. However, as Thomas explains, it was more than the unusual text messages that left him concerned that something was terribly wrong.
We have a money bag in that's where my drive slips go and all our checks from our customers. Okay. I did my route on Friday,
subscriber alert.
Yesterday, and I noticed everything was missing out of there. All the checks out of the money bag.
On Monday, March 12th, Lois enters Citizen State Bank, approaching the counter with a check from David's account, written to her in the amount of $1,000. The teller fails to notice that David's signature doesn't match the previous ones on record. Over the next several days, Lois would use David's credit card at several establishments, including a liquor store, Vandal's Family Market, and multiple times at the Woodfire Grill, a restaurant inside Diamond Joe's Casino in Northwood, Iowa, just across the Minnesota border. Meanwhile, Greg confronts Lois about the missing checks from Prairie Wax Worms.
I sent her a text that I'd been informed there was checks missing out of the office, so I had to call the county sheriff, report stolen checks. And if you know anything, let me know. So she called me back in a couple hours and said, "Well, I got the checks. Dave sent me down to get them. They're up. I got them." At that point, I said, "Lois, I need to talk to Dave." There was nothing. And I said, "Lois, put Dave on the phone." And the last thing she says, "Dave, don't roll over," and then hung up.
On March 16th, Lois would return to the Citizen State Bank with another check from David's account, written to herself for $2,500. The teller once again fails to notice the signature and gives her the funds in cash. As her shopping spree continued, Lois walked into a Fantastic Sam's hair salon in Austin, Minnesota on March 17th.
Yep, she came in and she was going to be going out for St. Patrick's Day. She said that she was going to be going to Diamond Joe Casino, so she wanted her hair to look like Peggy Bundy and have it nice and big.
3 days later, on March 20th, Lois is once again spotted on camera at the general store, this time wearing the same hoodie that David was wearing on the last day he was seen alive. At this point, David hasn't been seen in 9 days. Over the next 2 days, Lois returns to the bank, depositing over $8,000 into David's account at the drive-thru before transferring the money back into her account.
I'm just in awe that they would take a check from one company to Prairie Wax Worms and let her cash them. But it looks like about 12 grand minimum, 14,000.
Okay, so they were actually the company checks?
Yep. Well, not Prairie Waxworms. It was our customers' checks who had paid us, made payable to Prairie Waxworms.
Lois would hit the Diamond Joe Casino again on March 22nd, where her unusual behavior caught the attention of a casino regular.
Just kept acting like she was real suspicious on who people were and what was going on, you know? Like she wasn't quite sure of her surroundings, who she could trust and who she couldn't.
Okay, so paranoid basically?
Yeah, kinda.
Finally, on March 23rd, when David fails to appear on the fishing tournament's live stream, Lois steps into the Citizen State Bank for a final time. She presents a $7,500 check from David's account, writing spring trip in the memo. After the teller delivers the cash, Lois takes David's white Cadillac Escalade and vanishes. It would later be discovered abandoned on Fort Myers Beach in Florida.
As a detective, you got any inkling if she's in an area? Do you think she's just... God damn it, I don't know how you get away.
No, nothing so far.
I just don't know.
Detectives in Minnesota and Florida have yet to realize the shocking connections between the murders of Pamela Hutchinson and David Reese. But a lucky break will soon drive the two separate investigations toward a fateful collision. 3 days before Pamela's murder, Lee County Sheriff's Office in Florida had received a concerning 911 call.
Hi, there's an ATV out for a Lois Reese from Blooming Prairie, Minnesota in Seal County. She just got out of her car at my Florida house. I also live in Blooming Prairie, so I know about the whole thing. She's in a white 05 Escalade.
Okay, and
if you do some research, it's Seal County, Minnesota that's trying to find her.
Okay, so she has a warrant, is that what you're saying?
Yes, for the possible murder of her husband and for sure for embezzling charges.
Earlier the same day, the 911 caller, Tessa's daughter in Blooming Prairie, received a call from a woman named Stormy Liberty, who claimed to be Tessa's friend and asked for her address. Stormy Liberty was later identified as an alias that Lois used when opening a cell phone account. She was gone by the time police arrived, and just 3 days later, Pamela's life came to a tragic end. Now, after Pamela's death, as one deputy reviews the security footage from the Marina Village Motel, he recognizes the woman with Pamela as Lois Reese, based on Tessa's 911 call from 3 days ago.
Wow.
I do rentals, so she had a little notepad like she was going to rent, but that's what I thought. And then she got out, and she saw me. I said, can I help you? And she looked at me and she said, oh, I'm in the wrong place. And she quick got in her Escalade.
You said it was a 2005 white Escalade?
Yep, pearl-colored Escalade.
After being recognized in the surveillance footage, Lois is officially named a person of interest in Pamela Hutchinson's murder. On April 10th, investigators in Florida contacted Minnesota law enforcement, requesting a photo to confirm their suspect, and finally, information between the two investigations was shared. With evidence connecting Lois to more than one murder, investigators are left with the chilling question: is she finished, or is she planning to strike again? While following her trail, those who knew her begin to share a troubling history with investigators, one that hints at a possible motive for her ruthless actions.
My grandpa passed away and she got her inheritance, and she was so unbelievably bored out there at that house. And the only time she was happy is when she'd have the grandkids out there, and she had them a lot.
Okay.
My kids and my brother's kids were there a lot. If she wasn't at, with us, like her kids or her grandkids, she was probably at the casino. And I had told my dad, and I told her that I was getting concerned with how much she was going there. And she's like, Bria, it's just something for me to do. It's fun, but I don't have a problem. She blew through hundreds of thousands of dollars there. I had no idea it was that bad.
With Pamela's credit cards missing, investigators begin to trace where they may have been used. On April 6th, a woman claiming to be Pamela Hutchinson entered a Wells Fargo and withdrew $5,000, as seen in still images provided by the bank. The distinctive white hat, sunglasses, and blue shirt are the same clothes she was wearing in the surveillance footage at Marina Village.
So does she have a gambling problem, or?
Oh, absolutely.
So
$400,000 worth 2 years ago.
how much?
400 stolen out of a trust that belonged to her dad and brothers and sisters that she was managing.
Did you say 400,000?
Yes, sir.
As investigators continue to follow
$400,000?
Lois's trail, receipts show that she withdrew $1,500 from an ATM on April 7th, one day after leaving Marina Village in Pamela's stolen car.
How did he make it so she couldn't have any money? Do you know?
Well, I think the last go-around, you got to read between the lines with me. This is just conversation with Dave and I. I know all credit cards were taken away. I know she had no bank account. She wasn't a signature on any of his accounts.
Investigators also discovered that Lois had recently checked into the Hilton Hotel in Ocala, Florida for a day, using Pamela's credit cards and forging her signature on the room service receipts.
When all the money stuff came up after he realized, that she has a bad gambling problem and she went through all that money, like, she was put on, like, lockdown, like she couldn't have access to any money. And I told her many times, like, I understand why my dad was doing that. I get that. But I just told her that she should just, come live with me or my brother, because it wasn't, like, a good situation to be in for either one of them.
Brianna further explains that the financial issues Lois faced as a result of her gambling problem led to an attempt to take her own life 2 years prior.
My dad found out about something, probably money related, I'm guessing, and he was yelling at her, and he said a bunch of awful things to her, and then he left to go to the bank, and she said that she just felt like she just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Sure.
As Brianna continues to explain Lois's financial troubles, she recalls a recent situation involving her disabled sister Kim that landed her in legal trouble.
My mom actually took care of my aunt for like 2 or 3 years. She lived with her, and was really, really, really awesome, and like did everything by the book that she was supposed to. And when she got into gambling, I think she took some money from my aunt Kim.
Okay.
They were going back and forth. My mom skipped the court thing. Her lawyer was gonna settle for like $30,000, but then my mom, her behavior, she just doesn't address anything. She just pretends like it doesn't happen, so she didn't go to court. And because she didn't, they put like a full judgment, so like $100,000 is, I think, that they're trying to get from. Yeah.
Though Lois's alleged gambling history provides valuable insight for the detectives, they still have yet to establish her current whereabouts or the driving factor behind this horrific crime spree. With Lois's location and her motives still unclear, the fear that she may be armed, dangerous, and hunting for a new victim fuels their efforts as they continue following her trail. On April 8th, one day before Pamela's body was discovered, Lois attempted to use Pamela's credit card at an ATM in DeQuincy, Louisiana, but the transaction was declined. Investigators learned that Lois then traveled to another casino in Louisiana and won a $1,500 jackpot. As the interviews continue, one investigator brings up a possible concern that may make finding Lois an even more challenging endeavor.
I was just wondering if she was could make it to where she looked something different with makeup beyond the hair color. That she had some kind of a talent of, what do you call the people out?
Oh, makeup artist?
Makeup artist, yes.
But I don't think that, but I think that she was skilled enough with makeup that she could make herself look a little different. But I would say with a gambling problem, and now she's got time on her hands, she'll be at a casino.
However, Lois's son Billy has a far more grim expectation for how this fugitive search may end.
Based off her past actions, I'd say, finding her alive probably isn't very good, as sick as that sounds.
Right.
She's obviously tried to do it before. I think this is a little bit more serious than that was, spending money.
Right. You think she has any means of doing that, or?
Of hurting herself? Yeah, if she killed my dad.
At 11:16 p.m. on April 8th, Pamela's stolen Acura is seen traveling westbound on Interstate 10 in Lafayette, Louisiana, and once more on a license plate reader in Texas before the trail goes cold. With Lois continuing to cross state lines, a U.S. Marshals task force takes over the investigation and issues a BOLO for Lois Reese. She's now wanted for 2 murders, grand theft auto, financial theft, and identity theft. As the case gains national attention through widespread media coverage, She earns the nickname Killer Grandma. News outlets nationwide ask anyone who sees Lois or her vehicle to come forward. When a promising tip brings investigators one step closer to ending her reign of terror, one question remains: can they get to her before she disappears once again? At 6:58 p.m. on April 19th, over a week since she was last spotted on traffic cameras, Lois enters Dirty Al's restaurant on South Padre Island in Texas, just 30 miles from the Mexican border. She lingers upon entering, taking a moment to look at the posted menu near the main cash register. It isn't long before an employee sees Lois and stands watch. As she suddenly makes for the exit, the two male employees briefly converse before following her.
That's the Florida license plate.
Well, she was riding the Florida license. Where at?
Right here, that white car.
Oh. That couldn't hurt.
Did she think she can just go in public and be normal?
And local authorities are contacted. Police arrive at 7:50 p.m., nearly an hour after she left the building.
What?
It seems as though she slipped away once more.
No.
It's a devastating blow to their...
Look, the police ain't trying hard enough. If you know that y'all looking for this, she almost on. Is she a serial killer? No, she ain't a serial killer yet, but she on the way. She already didn't kill 2 people. Y'all looking for this lady, and y'all come an hour later. What are y'all really doing? Do y'all want to catch her or y'all playing?
Search, but in a shocking twist of events, while officers wait for someone who can show them the surveillance footage, they begin to search the conjoined parking lot and spot the stolen car at the restaurant next door. They enter the restaurant and find Lois sitting at the bar, talking with an unknown male, but wait for backup before moving in for the arrest. At 8:25 p.m. on April 19th, multiple officers move in and finally make an arrest, unaware of just how close Lois may have come to claiming a third victim. With Lois now in custody, one chilling question remains unanswered. What drove Lois to commit not one, but 2 brutal acts of murder?
Lois, what's your last name? I'll come out. Right now you're going to be detained. One detained. Double lock it. We're going to talk to him. Okay, no.
According to the man she was with, he and his friend met Lois at Padre Rita's Grill. She told them she was staying next door at the Motel 6 and was a widow searching for a place to live in South Padre. The jaw-dropping evidence in her motel room will later be found in a search by investigators. For now, the man explains that he and a friend went with Lois on April 17th for drinks before dropping her off at her motel. Both men found Lois to be completely normal, never witnessing any emotional breakdowns or outbursts, with one mentioning she was even flirting with him.
Is your driver's license in here, ma'am? Yes. It is. Go ahead, get in the room real quick. Get here. Okay, this one right here. Okay. It's not really your car. Okay. You wanna run her real quick? It's out of Minnesota. It's in there.
It's out of Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but the warrant I do believe might be out of Florida. But I didn't get a chance to even look up our stuff because it's like...
Yeah.
How that is.
Lisa, if you wanna...
And I'll get my cuffs back on.
Yeah. Just go ahead and grab your unit and follow into the station.
When news of her arrest broke, a woman came forward with a harrowing story. She told investigators that while eating alone at a restaurant on the island, she befriended a woman who identified herself as LaDonna, who was recently widowed and spending time away from her family to grieve. They met again for drinks on April 15th. The woman allowed LaDonna to come home with her, letting her stay in her guest bedroom. They had plans to meet again on Friday, April 20th, just one day after her arrest, where she learned LaDonna was Lois Reese. When investigators from Minnesota and Florida learn of her arrest, they fly to Texas to meet with Lois for an interrogation. However, Lois invokes Miranda rights and asks for a lawyer. Eventually, Lois will break her silence and recount the shocking details of her final moments with David and her motives for pulling the trigger. For now, Lois raises an unusual concern.
The process
Why did you do it?
Getting you out of here takes a little bit of time. And you gotta get
I think
transported
because
back
it's
to
money,
Florida.
to be honest with you.
So I imagine in a couple weeks, we'll see you back in Lee County Jail. And then from there, you'll be eventually going back to Minnesota to deal with the charges up there. Do you have any questions of us right now?
Will they put me in a room that has a bed?
I'm sorry?
Will they put me in a room that has a cot or something?
When you come to Florida?
For 2 weeks,
Oh, here?
I'll sit in that bin?
No, I believe you're going to be transferred to a sheriff's office in the area.
Okay.
You'll have to see a judge, I think, for extradition purposes in the morning, a magistrate. And then from there, you'll be going to a sheriff's office where they'll house you until we come pick you up.
And they'll be able to answer some of those questions that you have along with that. We just don't, we're not
from here.
So
Oh, okay.
you do have some of those concerns
Well, they just-
when you go downstairs,
I
out
just
there.
know it'd be better for my edema and my blood pressure, like
Yeah.
they said.
It'd probably be better if you ate some food too.
Yeah, but it'd be worse if I had to go to the hospital and have an attack. It'd be worse.
Oh, for sure. All right, that's why we're getting you crackers right now.
That's fine.
One final question from Lois leads to a shocking revelation as she learns the truth of just how far her notoriety is spread.
I guess one question I have is, do my kids know I'm alive and in fear?
Yes. I don't know if you know this or not, but your whole story has been national news. Okay. It broke last night. It broke last night that you were arrested in South Padre Island, that you're alive and well, and that you were found by the U.S. Marshals and the local police department here. So,
Okay, so they know.
I don't personally know that they know, but I can tell you that every local news media outlet nationwide has picked up the story.
Okay.
Before searching Lois's motel room, investigators spoke with an employee of Motel 6. She says Lois claimed to be a victim of domestic violence, hiding from her husband, who was a cop. When she next saw her, she appeared to be completely different, even dressing more provocatively. During one conversation, she heard Lois say, "I need a sugar daddy," before asking about another customer seen driving an expensive vehicle, raising unsettling questions about her future plans. A search of her motel room uncovered a mountain of evidence. Among the discoveries is a white towel wrapped around a pair of sunglasses, previously seen to be worn by Pamela. Lois's distinctive white hat, earlier seen to be worn as she withdrew $5,000 using Pamela's identity, is located on a pile of clothing. They also locate credit cards and checkbooks belonging to both David and Pamela, along with Pamela's luggage. A road atlas is found, and tucked within its pages is a brochure for a casino in Eagle Pass, Texas. They also uncover Pamela's driver's license, and finally, 2 loaded firearms. With a mountain of evidence against her, Lois is extradited to Florida and held without bond to face charges for the murder of 59-year-old Pamela Hutchinson. To avoid the death penalty, Lois pleaded guilty on December 17, 2019 to 1 count of first-degree murder, grand theft of a motor vehicle, grand theft of property, and criminal identity theft. She later returned to Minnesota to face charges for the murder of 54-year-old David Reese. At a hearing on August 11, 2020, in the auditorium of a Minnesota high school, after delays due to coronavirus, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and shared with the judge her version.
At where? Hold on.
2020, in the auditorium of a Minnesota high school, after delays due to coronavirus, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and shared with the judge her version of what happened on the fateful night of March 5, 2018. According to Lois, she and David had a heated argument following their grandson's basketball game. She claims David handed her a loaded firearm, encouraged her to turn it on herself and take her own life, saying, "Maybe you will get it right this time." In her own words, she explains, "He was right in front of me, and I looked right at his heart and I pulled the trigger." However, this is based solely on Lois's account, and David will never have the opportunity to confirm or deny her claim. As for Pamela, Lois never provides a reason for taking her life. For both murders, Lois Reese was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She's currently serving both life sentences concurrently at the Shakopee Correctional Facility in Minnesota.
Thank God they got that thug off the streets. Oh my God. That thug right there needed to get off the streets. That killer grandma, like, see, this is all addiction. That's all. Addiction, gambling problems, and all that. This is the addiction. This where addiction can get you in life. Right? With two murder charges, on a run. Like, cause think about it, right? She did all this, and she was just gonna travel the world and go to every casino. That's it. You want a sugar daddy so he can take care of you, so you can go to the casino. You was a terrible lady, a terrible mother. Man, look, look. I ain't gonna say you was a terrible mother. I don't know what kind of mother you was. But you was a terrible lady, though. You was a terrible lady, though. Because some people won't do nothing to their kids, but other people, ain't off limits. But I don't know. It's too much going on with her. It's way too much going on. I feel like she took out the second lady because she looked like her a little bit. That's what I thought. I thought it was you look like me. Let me try to lure you back here so I can take your identity type stuff. Personally, I ain't gonna even lie to y'all. I'm probably off my rocker, but hey, you never know. But look, y'all, I'm finna go ahead and get up out of here, man. Hey, shout out to everybody who tuned in to the late night streams again. Hey, it's your favorite host, RetroTheCeo. I'm out. I'm finna go ahead and go be Supervillain. Might go take over the world. Depend on how I feel, It be like that. So look, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe, and I'm finna get up out of here, y'all.